now is always the best time to start thinking about these things, whether you're 1 day or 25 years into practice. It doesn't matter, because at some point you are going to need to step away from the tables.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors. Welcome to Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. And today we are joined by a chiropractor that you have probably seen on stage amongst thousands, standing in front of thousands upon thousands, whether it's in Connecticut, New York, or at Parker seminars. He is additionally a very accomplished practicing chiropractor in his own right, Dr. Robert Kipp. Robert, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
It is our pleasure. I want to kick it off. Many docs listening have probably seen you emceeing on stage. You do a phenomenal job. You have incredible passion for chiropractic. We're going to get to some topics around hiring, around exit strategies. But before we get there, you clearly have a big passion for chiropractic. Being able to get up on stage, fire people up is a special skill set. Where did your passion for chiropractic arise from?
I think everybody has had their own personal miracle story. I'm really no different. Chiropractic truly saved my life when I was 18, and I switched gears from being on track to be an orthopedist to a chiropractor. Never looked back. Had the great fortune of being introduced to a lot of the philosophical greats back in my earlier days, which really, I mean, you want to talk about lighting a fire. And just ever since then, it was my ability to communicate has always been fairly somewhat standard and straightforward and simple. I enjoy it. I generally don't get nervous in front of crowds, thank goodness. Yeah, as you mentioned, I stand in front of thousands and talk about chiropractic. So, I could only wish that I could do that in front of thousands and thousands of the public, just to get that same message out there. But it's one of a labor of love, as you guys know. We want to turn the people on that are sitting in front of us to the same passions that we all share.
Hey, Doc, do you have an email list of 300, 500, or more? If so, please connect with our team at thesmartchiropractor.com. With Patient Pilot, we can activate that email list and start generating reactivations into your practice each and every week. To schedule a demo and learn more, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. But right now, we'll head back over into this awesome interview on Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor.
That's awesome. And there is a kind of common thread amongst, I'll say, most of us as to what drives this almost irrational passion to want to help grow our profession, let alone individual practices and so on. Robert, I'm fascinated. I'm curious where you're going to go with this. I'm going to ask you sort of two questions in one. Knowing what you know, seeing what you've seen, being in the rooms you've been in with the celebrity guests and dignitaries and everywhere you've been, let alone the thousands of chiropractors you've spoken to, and I'm sure come to you, at all of these different events.
Sure.
What do you believe in your perspective is perhaps I want to ask for the number one, but what may be one of our profession's greatest strengths? And what do you think is one of our profession's current relevant greatest weaknesses that you think really most needs to be addressed so that we can be as strong as possible as a profession? Take whichever one you want first, but you've seen a lot, know a lot of people, hear a lot of things. I'm fascinated to hear, what's great about our profession in your opinion. I assume I know those, but I'm curious, what are some of the weaknesses that you think need to be strengthened, that are doable, and that we should be focused on collectively?
Both great questions. And the immediate thing that came to mind about the strength is that we are one of the very few true healthcare professions that has the ability to put our hands on a patient. And, when you think about dentistry, orthopedists, neurosurgeons, who name off the litany of MD types, all of them, they never really enter that sacred space of somebody's bubble, and when people come to us, they actually say, I am inviting you to come into that space. And it's such a sacred space. And we have that I don't know. I think all chiropractors have been called to this position and have that innate capability of entering that space in a very safe and healing way. So I think from a standpoint of strength, that is it, man. And I don't think we capitalize on that enough, because a lot of people get nervous about it. But I'll tell you, if you embrace that as the strength of what chiropractic can do for somebody, hands down, the number one thing that could propel this profession. As far as the weaknesses or something that we could focus on, I think a couple different things. One is our communication to the public and communicating on a common thread. So, historically, there's been a zillion different techniques in the chiropractic field, and unfortunately, there's a lot of infighting that says, "Hey, my technique's better than this one. That's better than this one." Well, I'll refer back to Deitch. If you hit them in the ass with a board, they're probably going to have a positive outcome at some point, right? So the reality is, whether I practice diversified, toggle, upper cervical, activator, it doesn't, all of them will work as long as the intent is pure. And so there doesn't need to be any of this discrepancies. And frankly, I love referring to other chiropractors from within my own practice if I'm not getting the results that I want to see. Don't be afraid of that. So the communication to the public, I would say, is the first piece of that. And then the communication within our own profession is the second piece. So I don't know that.
Those are valuable bits of information. We discussed that in terms of taking the content and getting it into the right context so people can understand, and teaching and inviting consistently through your messaging so that you are able to guide people towards better health. And I couldn't agree more in terms of intra-professional communication. You're basically talking about abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. We could not agree more. One thing we're talking about pre-roll that I want to make sure we get to is around the evolution as somebody goes through their career. And we were discussing recurring revenue and some of the businesses that you've done outside of the healthcare space, which are super interesting. But you mentioned you've been speaking with plenty of docs about exit strategy as they continue on in their career. And I'll open this up a little bit wide to get started, and then we can dive into some of the details. But what are some of the greatest challenges or questions that docs come to you when they even start considering exiting the profession?
Well, I'd say one of the biggest challenges is that a lot of people don't even start considering it until very late in their career. And I can't even tell you how many times it's been asked of me by one of I'll class them as our senior docs. I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't know how to retire. And that could be for a number of different reasons. They could feel, that super pull to their patients and that they never want to let them go. It could be financially driven, so there's a lot of different things. But unfortunately, what I see is they get to a point where they physically cannot do the job anymore. And then their practice ceases to exist and they're left with nothing. And it haunts my dreams at night because I'm like, this never happens in any other like corporate America, because the machine is built in such a way that it continuously rolls on with or without you. And so I try to think of, how am I going to position myself even now? I'm 21 years into practice now. And look, I practice diversified. I'm a fairly aggressive adjustment giver. And I know my body's not going to hold out, seeing volumes of people for forever. So I like to think about, what is the next step? I certainly would love to have a legacy of pro health chiropractic existing here in Southern Connecticut. So the question becomes, how do I do that? And so therein lies, associateships and things that we spoke about pre-roll, and how to appropriately do that, but also positioning yourselves with that recurring source of revenue that you want to have, maybe not just from your two amazing hands. So you start to diversify your portfolio of revenue streams. And that is, once you can get that rolling and it rolls to a point where you get your recurring revenue is higher than your active revenue, you win the game. And so that's a lot of the conversations that I'm having with docs now is, how do you position yourself? And what are your strengths, and how can you work into those to create those streams and be ready to exit when it's the right time for you?
That's a great response. And Jeff, to your point, let's dig a little bit deeper. Robert, what I do notice your practice is called Pro Health Chiropractic, not Kipp Chiropractic. So there must be a strategy to that as far as what you're saying in terms of having a business continue. But I know we just introduced you to our book, The Payday Practice. We'll have this conversation a few months from now. But currently, what are the things you do recommend chiropractors think about, and when is it the best time to start thinking about it so that it's not too late? How do you advise people now to basically, as we write about in the book, just briefly cover what we call your MVMI, your minimum viable monthly income? Pretty much the amount of money you need to know confidently you're going to cover your overhead at least every month, so that anything you need and do above and beyond that, for the most part, is profit. Some, as you mentioned, do that through real estate investing. What are the other ways in which you recommend chiropractors not take their eye off the ball of their practice, but also be able to do what is smart and prudent, which is handle your money, handle your finances?
Right.
Because too many chiropractors, I think, they end up having their dream practice basically hijacked by their need for money.
Sure.
And they're not winning in either side because they're just doing what they need to do for the dollars as opposed to what they want to do for people. And that doesn't become a long-term benefit for anyone. How do you recommend that docs handle that?
Great question. I'd say, first and foremost, the time is now. Now is always the best time to start thinking about these things, whether you're one day or 25 years into practice. It doesn't matter, because at some point you are going to need to step away from the tables, right? It's going to have to happen. So obviously, the sooner you can start turning on that abundance mindset for other revenue streams, then you've just got that much more of a head start. Believe me, I wish that I had thought this way 21 years ago, but hindsight, right? It's always that 2020 vision. So start thinking about that now. And I would advise, find out what you love, because if you love something already that can be tied or integrated into your practice, like I'll give you a for example. I'm working right now on a strategy to integrate my wife, who happens to be a nurse, into the practice to do infusion therapies. Now again, it's not going to be a forever thing, but if I can establish the systems in place, then at some junction, somebody will take my place as the chiropractor and another RN will take her place as the infusion therapist. So, it has to be plug and play. You asked or made a comment about my office name, and you're absolutely right. When I started the practice, I did not want my legacy to be a name on the wall, because frankly, I can't sell that to anybody, So, if somebody wants to come take that over, well, great. Dr. Jason Deitch is going to run Kipp Chiropractic. It doesn't make any sense, So keep it universal. Keep it outside of the nomenclature of your own. And so those little things make such a huge difference in your transitional periods later down the line, in order to make it go nice and smooth. Some people I know in this profession love nutrition. They love the supplements. Great. Why don't you look into creating a white label product that you can start selling? I wouldn't recommend putting your name on that either, in case you want to sell it, sell it off, sell the rights to it later on. But maybe you create that white label product for weight loss, and you start a weight loss program within the confines of your office. Look, is it mixing? Sure. Who the hell cares though? Is it going to be healthy for somebody? Yes, as long as it's being done right. And that's where you got to make sure that you're stepping up and making sure that you're doing right by the people. And the money part flows after it, Provide a great service, provide a great product. You're not going to have to worry about the cash flow, believe me. So that's a recommendation I would give on that. Just finding something that you're passionate about and figure out how to make it plug and play within your practice. And it's got to make money. That's the end of the line. And just real quickly, Jason, on your comment of MVMI, make sure that you include, you as the doctor, you include your salary in that overhead. You don't work for free, nor do you ever want to. And so you got to make sure that minimum income is going to cover all of your practice overhead, including your salary. So just a quick piece there.
Hey, it's Dr. Jason. I just want to take a brief moment and invite you to schedule a demo with our team to learn more about our Patient Pilot automated email campaigns. They are the smartest way to reactivate the people you've seen over the years in the past. Check it out, schedule a demo. We look forward to helping you help more people, piloting your patients back into your practice. Now back to our show.
Great information. One thing you mentioned was systems and processes. This is dangerous territory I'm getting into right now. How come it's so hard for people that have systems and processes? What has been your experience with it? Because it seems as though in so many small businesses, which most chiropractic practices are small businesses, there is just no systems and processes, yet we all know, and you described it right then, systems and processes are what lead to results in nearly any facet of what we do. Working out, chiropractic care, our money, you name it, systems and processes matter. Robert, what's your take on why systems and processes are so hard for people to implement?
Why they're so hard? I can't speak to everybody's, emotional integrations with their practices or their own lives or whatever we're talking about putting systems into. But I will say that in my experience in working with a lot of chiropractors over the years, it is the shiny object syndrome. We'll call it SOS, for justifiable reasons. Shiny object syndrome is, hey, that thing would have to make money in my office because I'm going to spend $100,000 on it. No, that's not true. You could spend $10 on something if you've got the system to implement it for both patient care improvements and financial gains. Look, I got no problem talking about making money, because if anybody says that they got into chiropractic just to change the world, okay, great. So did Mother Teresa, but she was one of the most wealthy people on the planet, right? So the two do not have to be mutually exclusive. Making money is a good thing, and money in itself is not a bad piece of existence. It's energy, and so the more energy that you can draw in and allow it to flow through you, the bigger your impact. Period.
I think that's a very powerful way to put it, and it really, I think for many docs listening and watching, it's about opening their mind and understanding it's okay to strive for a successful business. And as we like to say, revenue is a byproduct of value delivered, right? So there is no question that what you said, we wholeheartedly agree with. I think you've opened some eyes out there, and we're up against the clock. I really appreciate you. We've all seen you on stage in front of, again, tens of thousands of chiropractors at this point in time. It's awesome to sit down and chat 2-on-1, I'll say, and get a better understanding of what you're up to behind the scenes. Additionally, I want to let every doc listening and watching know we're going to drop some links down below. So if you'd like to keep up to date on what Robert is up to and the tools that he offers chiropractors to help you be as successful as possible, we'll be sure to link those down below. Robert, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you both for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much for watching this video on The Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.